This is the all-new Camus e-pedal direct drive wheel, and that's right, despite it looking identical to the C5 we all know, it is significantly different. How so? Well, with it, you don't need pedals. The wheel itself is fitted with individual pressure sensors that can be used as throttle and brake inputs. Designed primarily for disabled sim racers who can't use their legs, but also useful for many other environments, the Camus e-pedal is unlike anything the sim racing community has ever seen before. However, being such an innovative new piece of technology, is it any good, or does it still have a long way to go? Well, I've been putting this e-pedal direct drive wheel, I know, confusing, to the test for several weeks now, and trust me when I say this may be one of the most innovative uses of sim racing technology that I've ever seen. Sent to me by Camus for review, the e-pedal is the world's first sim racing wheel with incorporated pressure sensors. As you can tell, it's based on the same platform as the C5, and as such, performs, looks, and feels exactly like it. The only real difference will be the fingerprint indents on the grips of the wheel, which is where the pressure sensors are obviously located. Now, despite being roughly unchanged from the C5 that I reviewed over a year ago, it's still a high quality wheel. Its synthetic leather wrap looks and feels good, it has precise stitching throughout, a carbon fiber faceplate that glistens under light, and of course the integrated direct drive motor. Capable of exerting up to 5 Nm of force, the inking performance here surprisingly feels better than I remembered. Probably due to newer software updates since the last time I used it, the feedback feels very capable and punchy, and smaller details like road surfaces, bumps, and curbs are far more accentuated than I remember them being. This ultimately led to a pleasant driving experience that not only felt realistic, but also refined and very similar, if not identical, to the competition for MOZA and Fanatec at the 5 Nm level. Now, of course, there are lots of other positives and negatives regarding this direct drive wheelbase from Camus, but all of that and more I've already covered in my C5 review, so make sure to watch that if you're interested in learning more about the technical specifications. As for this video, I really want to focus on what makes the Camus e-pedal unique, and like I said, it's the ability to use it without a dedicated set of pedals. Now, I'll start by saying that when Camus originally reached out offering to send me this for review, I was fairly skeptical. Is this a huge gimmick? Is it nearly impossible to use? And is it so niche that it's just not worth me going over? Well, honestly, I was in for a massive surprise. This wheelbase is truly none of that. Although I believe there is a huge learning curve to get seriously competitive with it, the e-pedal quite literally allowed me to get up in racing, modulate my brake and throttle inputs, and feel immersed in game, all in the palm of my hands. Most interestingly though, I actually wasn't completely terrible when I first launched it up in game. Though I was nowhere near my normal lap times, I was at least able to keep it on the track, hit a lot of my braking points, and at least be a little bit competent. Something I really wasn't expecting to be able to do, considering it's so different from everything else that I'm used to. In this sense, and in my opinion, the way Camus integrated these pressure sensors onto the handle was very intuitively done, and it almost felt like second nature. That being said, however, there is still a lot of room for improvement. Starting with the throttle input on my right hand, no matter the adjustments I made in the software or in-game, I found its actuation to be extremely quick, where in practically a millisecond I could go from 0 to max throttle input, almost like flicking a switch. Pair this with the fact that there is no tactile feedback or resistance to get a sense of how much pressure you're applying, and I found it very hard to precisely modulate my throttle inputs, something that is obviously very important. Now, apart from spinning out on several occasions due to this lack of control, another problem I found was that on long straights, or just after doing several laps, my right thumb would begin to get very tired. This is because, ultimately, although there isn't much force required to push the sensor, you still have to actively press it down, which after a while can become tiresome. As such, I think Camus should try to figure out a way to set up some type of cruise control function where you can still relax your hand while still maintaining max throttle. This being especially useful for things like oval racing, for example. Now looking at the brake control on my left hand, it works exactly the same, but with substantially more force required to fully press it down, and as such, there's more fine control over its input. Overall, I feel as though I had a slightly better experience here. For starters, I didn't feel my left hand get as tired, and in the moments where heavy or light braking was needed, I feel I was able to modulate that input accordingly. One very important thing to keep in mind, however, is that when needing to brake while cornering or making heavy movements on the wheel, a lot of that perceived control was thrown out the window as I struggled to balance the wheel's movements while precisely pressing down a sensor. As such, the Camus E-pedal will certainly be harder to use in rally or drift scenarios where precision of the pedal inputs has to be in cohesion with rapid and sporadic wheel movements. Now that being said, however, I truly believe that for sim racing use, i.e. competitively racing against others, just as many people can be super quick on an Xbox controller, I think that with enough practice, many people could also be rapid on something like this. In this sense, despite my complaints, I do think that the hardware here is good enough to give you what you need as a driver looking to be quick. This of course is an amazing thing for existing or want to be sim racers who are injured or disabled from the waist down and still want to experience the thrill of racing. Now since the start of this channel, I've said that sim racing is for everyone, and the Camus E-pedal, in my opinion, is the embodiment of that. This is a product that, despite not having the biggest customer base, is still presented as an option for that minority, something we all have to respect Camus for actually doing. Now, although disabled or injured sim racers are the primary market for a product like this, there are other interesting use scenarios. For example, people who travel a lot or are going abroad for a very long time could technically take this in a suitcase and, paired with a table clamp, have a mini sim racing setup fully available at any time. Furthermore, if you really want to race but are extremely tight on space to the point where you can't fit a set of pedals, this is also an option. And finally, say that you do have pedals and can use them, but you want to bind these sensors for things like clutch and handbrake inputs, well, that's also a possibility. As such, the Camus E-pedal is surprisingly versatile. So in conclusion, this product is certainly not for everyone, but for those of you who it could be for, despite its drawbacks and room for improvement, I can say with confidence that it is a very capable bit of kit, and at the very end of the day, is simply a great thing to see. Now this being such a unique and new product for sim racing, let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments below, and with that, this has been my full review on the brand new Camus E-pedal. So as always, thank you all for watching, stay safe, and have a fantastic rest of your day.